WNT9 Talk Radio.
Here we go, y'all.
WNT9 Talk Radio, and we are here with another segment. Today we have Sister Maryam Bey with us on the line. Assalamu alaikum, sis.
Wa alaikum assalam wa rahmatullah. Ramadan Mubarak.
How are you doing today? Peace and love. Peace and love. How you doing today?
All is well. I'm doing great. How about you?
I'm great. There is a topic that you mentioned on your live feed about accepting change, and I thought it would be perfect to actually bring to the forefront on our platform. You actually was going in on it, and I felt it was very powerful, specifically because it was coming from a feminine. And most often, regardless of the platform, it seems like we follow the path that men set, but we know that women are the best teachers. So when I saw you, really giving a conversation about accepting change, it felt like, okay, this is universal. This is something that no matter what an individual's denomination is or what the situation is, whether it's religion, whether it's relationships, whether it's on the job, accepting change, that pertains to everything. So I'm happy to have you here, and I just want to get your views on it, and we can just go more in depth on this thing.
Alhamdulillah. I appreciate you reaching out to me. I really appreciate you to listen to my live, because I know that not everybody takes time to think about someone else's perspective or even try to see where they're coming from. So I really appreciate that. And I think that there's a saying that, the only thing in life that you can depend on is change. Nothing else. So we know that there's always going to be that, and how we react to it is, it really just shows us a lot about our character. I remember one time I had a job interview and a woman asked me, how do you do with change? And I said, well, change is the only constant, how could, I don't know. I feel like many people are resistant to change, but that's like saying you're resistant to being alive. You're resistant to change.
Yeah. That's real.
So I definitely think, and even like right now, what I've been observing during this COVID-19 crisis, where like everything overnight changed, right? Like the world pretty much stopped, but you kind of see how people have dealt with it. And some people really have, people started acting really ill, like at least in my social circles and like my home, people really started acting strange, when they don't have that, that ability to identify with what they do every day, or they go to work every day and they put on their outfit every day and they go out in the world and they present themselves. And when they didn't have that, oh man.
Yeah.
First 2 weeks, everyone was great. But after that, oh man, people were ill, like really illy. Like, could not find nothing to do with themselves. And that really made me really start to think about, how we identify and how much we're controlled by society to tell you who we are. Even I watched another sister on her YouTube channel, and she said people don't even ask you how you are or how you feel. They ask you what you do.
Wow.
What do you do for a living?
That's true.
Not how are you feeling? Not how are you, are you happy? Are you sad? Do you like what you do? What you do defines you.
Wow. That is true. That is true. A sad reality, but that is true.
And think about how many people who don't like what they do. So it's like, are you destined to live a life of unhappiness? If you're doing something that you don't really like, but that's who you are because that's how society has identified you. Like sometimes you might meet people who have certain types of jobs. They won't even like tell you what their job is because maybe it's not considered favorable.
Right.
They don't want to tell you they're a checkout clerk at Walmart. They don't want to tell you they're a janitor. They don't want,
Wow.
because that defines them.
Right.
And that's so unfair.
It really is, and it's actually sad to even be in the presence of someone and realize that this is what they're accepting. Like if I'm in the presence of someone and they feel like, and I sense that they're not too proud of their position, whether it's at work or just in life, I feel obligated to raise that person up. I feel obligated to and actually I'm honored. The Muslim in me, actually makes me feel honored to be in the presence of someone that I feel I can assist and help. Morale is everything, and to have someone that feels less of themselves or out of whack of their reality or ashamed is really that's horrific. So it definitely is sad if that is I'm sure it's still going on, but I
mean, it's a hard truth. And even I have read this book recently called The Constellations of Philosophy, and in it there's a section called Constellations for Inadequacy. When do we feel inadequate? And I said, when do I feel inadequate? And I realized when I really thought about it, I don't feel inadequate. Other people try to make me feel inadequate. When people say, what college did you go to? Or where do you work? Or how much do you make? Or what kind of car do you drive? It's other people trying to make us feel inadequate. You could be feeling so good about yourself and then go into a social setting and then leave feeling not good,
Right. And then we can get, if we wanted to, we can actually, pull up some realities like, okay, but how much debt are you in? How much debt are you in?
Facts.
You're still looking for a job just like I am.
Facts.
I mean, so
how many people did you go to college who work as like receptionists or like serious who have bachelor's degrees but work at like Home Depot? Because I know a lot.
Right. So this is not a hate on people or individuals who went to school or went to college and got a degree. This is just the reality of how some carry and conduct themselves just because they feel that they may be more successful in life. But as we talk about accepting change, even that type of individual needs change, needs to acknowledge change, because this, like you just mentioned, this pandemic that we're in right now has really, if it's not a
college
humbling,
degrees didn't do too much for you with with COVID. Your college degree didn't help you, right?
If this is not a humbling experience, nothing is. If this hasn't humbled all of us, nothing will. Life has changed for everyone. Like you said, you can't go about and do things the way that you normally would do. And this is in everybody's backyard. This is not just in one particular area. A pandemic affects the world. It's global. And, the only absolute in life is change. So, if we're not changing, then we're not evolving. And it brings me to this, what you were speaking on in your live is even just in regards to religion, I found in my travels that I'm able to be in a church. I'm able to be in the mosque. I'm able to be in the temple. I'm able to be in the pyramids. I'm able to be wherever the Most High guides me to be for that moment, and still be able to maintain who I am personally, because who we are personally is our business. It's not a show. It's not like, hey man, I thought you sang R&B music. I thought you was a
what you doing at this rap concert? Yeah.
Yeah, you know what I'm saying? like, Johnny Gill, what you doing here? I thought you was R&B, man. So.
Well, I mean, when has life become so rigid that you can't, that Muslims can't go into a synagogue, or
Right.
like when have we become so rigid that a Muslim can't study Buddhism? Like
Right.
when have we become so rigid in that sense of thinking? And I think that's one of the issues where, like, I always think this song by Damon Marley and Nas, Tribal Wars, where we're just like using all these tribal differences to exclude one another. And life is really about inclusion. Like, we want to be inclusive. We want to include others as part of ourselves.
Mm.
But we actually use our religions and our perspective and our education and to exclude people. And that's like one of the great human disservices.
Mm-hmm.
Because there's even this saying, I am that I am. So it's like everything you see, from the bird to the tree, I am that I am. Even the Muslim, even the poorest of the poor, I am that I am.
Mm.
But for us to be so exclusive to people based off of religion or ethnic or nationality, it's some type of different kind of sickness.
That's real.
That it's hard for me to understand, but at the same time, I even think I said in my live that people fear what they don't understand.
Mm-hmm.
So it's like I recently was looking into like Judaism,
right,
because I've been watching this show on reality TV called Arranged, where people have arranged marriages.
right.
And there was a Jewish couple that got arranged. So I started looking into like the Jewish customs. And what I'm finding is that they're so similar to Islam. So similar.
Exactly.
So so it's like the more I look at the different faiths, the more I feel connected to them.
As you should.
It's like I feel like I could have a conversation with a Jewish woman. Like I feel like I could have a sisterhood.
Right. Just as long as she's not, just as long as other people are not, suffering from the same ignorance that a lot of other people suffer from,
Mm-hmm.
But it's a big problem because look, you can't even get a next door neighbor nowadays to speak to you.
Facts.
You know?
Facts.
So
Facts.
so the ignorance.
Oh my gosh.
The ignorance goes way deep. It goes way beyond, the concept of, well, you're a Muslim, I'm a Christian, blah blah blah. This goes down to, you're a neighbor, and I want to keep to myself. Like, people been social distancing for a very long time.
Facts.
You know what I'm saying? So,
I was trying to figure out too, like, I had this conversation with a friend of mine because I just recently moved into this apartment that I'm in now. I've been here like 3 months.
mm-hmm.
But the apartment I previously lived in, it was kind of interesting. Like, I had some of my neighbors would speak and be kind, and some of them like would not. And, there were different ethnic groups. Like, I usually live in a place that's pretty diverse, which means there's like a lot of immigrants. There may be like some Americans, but there's predominantly like Mexicans and Ethiopians. So it's mixed up. So,
right.
Or even like Moorish Americans who are, maybe loosely called African Americans. People, all types of people would live in these apartment complexes with me, but I noticed that some people just would not greet me.
Mm.
And I always thought that was unusual. It's kind of strange. But what I noticed is that the older gentlemen, like men, sometimes like over 40, they'd always speak. Oh, how you doing, sister? Good afternoon. Like, they'd always greet me. But I noticed that a lot of times, like, the women who were maybe 40s to 20s, they wouldn't speak. They would not. I'm talking about like straight up, head straight, eyes straight, no eye contact, no, like. And I'm like, think about the amount of effort it takes to ignore someone to that level. That takes a lot of concentration to act like you don't see another human being.
Well, yeah, that's
way more effort than it takes. That's a lot of effort, right?
Yeah. And believe it or not, religion breeds that type of ignorance. And this is facts. This is something that, I've observed, since my shahada, since my baptism, and we was talking about it earlier offline, It's just like that. That's one of the realities, one of the sad realities. In every religion, there is a breed of ignorance, and so if we can, we're racist within our own, congregation, we're racist.
Oh, yes. Within Islam, there's so many different sects that have an issue with one another, which is why when I do speak about Sufi, all the Sunnis look at me funny, and all the Shiites, I'm like, oh my gosh, she's a Sufi. Then I'm like, no, I'm not a Sufi. Then they're like, are you Sunni? I'm like, no, I'm not Sunni. You're not Sunni. Are you Salafi? No, I'm not Salafi. Well, what are you? Like,
right.
What?
Right. We need to categorize you. We need to categorize you. We need to put you in a box, and we need to like being
label you.
Being a Muslim is not enough. Being a Christian is not enough for people. It's like, what kind of Christian? What kind of Muslim are you? What do you mean, what kind? You know what I'm saying? Well, why can't we start with just accepting the fact that we're on the same side? We're not actually out there wilding out in the streets and, running around like crazy fools. We're actually considered those who are born again,
I mean, I say it all the time to people, 2020, North America, I say other places too, but specifically North America, 2020, if you're a Muslim and you make salat and you practice your religion and you observe Ramadan, I mean, you're like a superhuman. Seriously, because everything in this society is against our deen. It's against it. It's opposite. So if you're actually able to practice your religion in today's society in North America, alhamdulillah, you're a superhuman. Like, you really achieved something,
Right.
And I don't think, because it's so difficult the way that they make you feel, and not just feel. It's just, I just had a conversation with my friend about it during Ramadan. It's like, this is my third year taking the month of Ramadan off of work. But usually, you work and you're fasting, so you're getting through your whole 8-hour, work day, not to mention getting there and getting home, which becomes like a 10-hour day, and you got up at 3:30, to have your pre-dawn meal, and then you make salat, and then not to mention you got to complete the juice, right? You got to read the Quran, you got to make salat, you can't eat, and you have to work, and you still have to function in society. If you can do that, you are extraordinary.
Yeah. Absolutely. My
friends who are from Muslim countries, Muslim countries shut down. People don't know. People get up in the morning, they eat, they get up, they go to work at 5, and everything shuts down by noon.
Right.
So they're not under the amount of pressure that we're under in North America practicing our religion.
Facts.
It's much easier for them.
Facts. Well, being in America, everybody know America is a Christian country, so this is and Christians have a whole lot of issues themselves. It's sad that we are still accepting these titles, because just to accept the titles alone separates us. It divides us. And really we should just that we should be in a world where we not acknowledging each other as Muslims, Christians.
Facts.
Facts. Like it should be a law that's secret. Like that's private.
I mean, even with this, even to quote Socrates, when he was asked what his nationality was, he would say, "I am not Athenian. I'm a human. I'm a person of the world." So the world was his identity. The world was his ethnic group. He was not Athenian. He was not from Athens. He identified with all people and all social groups.
Right.
And so I feel that is so deep, and it's so important for us to look at that and take it in. With that being said, I feel like people are so connected to their identities, and that's what creates the situation where we're like, well, you're not this, I'm this. Because once you begin to identify with something, then it begins to affect your ego, and it begins to affect your perception. You begin to think that what you are is superior to what others is. So I think a lot of times, separating ourselves from our identity, but not only our identity, our history and our past, which sounds crazy to say. People are like, how can you separate yourself from the history? I get sometimes I can get resentful or kind of like standoffish when people start to talk about history, because there's parts of history, especially those of us in North America, there's parts of history that's really nasty and it's really negative.
Absolutely.
And when that history comes out and then we have to attach ourselves to that history, it doesn't feel good. So it's like, I don't even want to attach myself to that history anymore. I don't want to attach myself even to the positive parts of history, because that can even be a restraint. If we weren't always thinking about what our ancestors did, we may be able to do things better than what they did. But we're so caught up in what they did. We're trying to get back to what the Egyptians did. We're trying to get back to what the Sumerians did. But we could actually ascend from what they did. We could be doing something so much greater, but we're stuck constantly going back to that story or to that text or to that, you know? So I know that people think it's like crazy when it's like, you can't say forget the past, but it's like, why can't we? Is it really real? Like the only moment that is the real moment is this moment, right?
Exactly.
Only is this present moment the real moment. So what do we really have to do with the past?
And it's none of it is passed on to us. You know, we have to hold on to it and look for it and find it and fight for it and steal it, and we got to we got to commit all kind of personal crimes to each other. You know, to maintain.
Put in work.
Yeah,
you gotta put in work.
Yeah, that's real. You know, so it's
the easier thing to just be to forget about it and not talk about it. Even I was doing a person's hair one day, and the person was what is loosely referred to as Caucasian or European American. He was a fair-skinned brother, but he had, you know, dreadlocks, and so I also do like hairstyles for dreadlocks. And I went to his home, and of course, you know, he's was like a frat guy, like in his early 20s. So he had like a bunch of people at his house, and I got there, and they started talking about at that time the movie 12 Years a Slave had just come out, so they were like dying to get my perspective on it. And I was like, you know, if people would stop making these kind of movies, and if people would stop having these kind of sessions, and if they would stop having this so-called Black History Month at my daughter's school, I'd give North America 10 years, maybe 20, before slavery was something that no one spoke about anymore. And we literally stopped making these movies and stopped writing these books and we would forget about it. No one would talk about it anymore. Therefore, our children would no longer have this stigma carried with them. We'd no longer have this energy carried with us. But we have to carry this energy with us, because every 3 years somebody's making a movie like 12 Years a Slave. And it's ridiculous. Like, to me, it's like, when do you jump off the boat? When is, you know, when there's a hole in it, right? Like, when do you get off when you know it's sinking, you know?
Now, what do you, beautiful points. Now, let me switch the paradigm a little bit. Still the same topic, accepting change. We got 2 minutes here, so I want to kind of get this in right quick. Now, what are your views on, in regards to relationships? Because I found that a lot of people are stuck, you know, in how they conduct themselves or how they've been conducting themselves. And so some people are actually afraid of happiness. They're afraid to be happy. They're afraid to, you know, put in the work to do what it takes to actually succeed. You know, a lot of people are stuck in failure.
Yeah, that's fact. I mean, I think about relationships, and I even think about relationships the same way I think about my religion. So it's like, there's parts of Islam that I may not agree with, just like there's parts of a relationship that you might not like. There's parts of your partner that you don't agree with. There's parts of your partner that you wish you could change. And there's parts of my religion that I wish I could change. But what keeps me connected to my religion is commitment. So it's like, I've committed to Islam, the good and the bad. So that's what's required in relationships, is commitment. I think as far as change, I read a quote from this guru. He's a mystic. His name is Sadhguru. He's Indian, or I should say he's Hindu. And he said, we always want our partners to change so that we can accept them, so that we can love them. But we're really supposed to be accepting our partners and loving them despite their change. How do you know? How do you know if you should be with someone? If you can look at that person and say, if this person never changes to think about them for the rest of their lives, can I still love them? Because the reality is that change is a very difficult thing. It's not easy. It's not something that people come across every day.
Mm-hmm.
So the fact we might have to accept that some of the people in our lives just won't change, but that doesn't mean they're not worthy of love.
Wow.
The reality is that some of the things, facts. The reality, though, is that there are some things that people do that are toxic and it hurts others, right? Some of the traits and the habits that we've adapted, it hurts others. So in that sense, certain things you do have to change about yourself if you want to have a functional, happy relationship. Like I just said to a sister that I was talking to not long ago, we were talking about relationships, and every person has a different goal or a different desire or a different need from a relationship. It could be physical, love, affection. It could be financial support.
Right.
It could be companionship. Right. There's all these different reasons why people have relationships.
Mm-hmm.
Each person has to figure out what is it that they're getting and giving out of this relationship so that they feel it's successful.
Mm.
Some of those things may require change. Right? Some change on your part. Because we know this, you can never change another person. Change on your part, right?
Right.
To make sure that this relationship is functional. Because I don't even think that we realize that relationships don't only have to have happiness, they have to have function.
Wow.
Day-to-day function.
Wow. Operative.
And I really believe that's one day to day. And I really believe that's why some of our ancestors, and I have been doing a lot of research into arranged marriages. It's something that it interests me. I've gave some thought into like arranging a marriage for my daughter, which sounds kind of crazy because we are in America and, it's not something that's common. And it's not something that I would force upon her, but I've been doing research into it because I want to understand the science behind it. Because there's a true science behind arranging marriages. Why you see Jewish people and you see Indian people and you see African people having these arranged marriages, because marriages are meant to be functional. All this love and attraction, that stuff is secondary.
All that lust.
They look for, come on.
Right.
After the love, because don't get it twisted, love comes and goes.
Mm-hmm.
Love is just not always on the scene popping. No.
Facts.
Love is not, no. It comes and goes. It, might spring up in the beginning and it might fade after a couple of years and it might pop back up, So that's not what keeps relationships going. It's function and commitment, right? So when I look at these arranged marriages, I see that that's one of the things that helps them to come together. I mean, some of these people are strangers, like dead strangers. Right. They come together and they have functional relationships because it's not about attraction. It's not about love or lust.
Right.
It's about day to day having a partner. I think it's really important that we do accept one another. I know that I've had many experiences in my life where I looked at the other person, you, right? Mm-hmm. You need to do this. You're not doing it. You did it. You did it. And nothing really positive came from these relationships. Because I was so outward bound. You have to go inward.
Wow.
I know I heard you have to go inward. It's like Sadhguru said something like, when your spouse is doing something that you don't like, or if your spouse says something you don't like, instead of thinking about why they said that or why they did that, think about why is it affecting you like that? What about what they said is affecting you?
Why? I'm actually almost afraid to cut this off. We gotta go, but that is wow. Instead of going out, instead of speaking out and just exhaling and saying whatever exactly how you feel, which most of the time we're not in tune at that moment. We're just speaking from emotions. Instead of doing that, go within, be quiet and go within.
Facts.
Now you did say it wasn't easy. You did say it wasn't easy. So we're not saying that you can just do it like, boom, boom, boom. But we need to be focusing on being silent instead of opening our mouths, yipping and yapping and hurting other people, we need to just be quiet for a minute and go within, do some meditation, stop hurting each other with just trying to fight for what we consider to be the justice of our relationships or, of our territory. We are very territorial, but we need to humble ourselves, take this whole pandemic as a learning experience, and hush. Hush. I thank you so much, sis. I thank you so much for being with us today on this topic, accepting change. You have said some very powerful things today. We have Sister Maryam Bey on the line. Do you have anything? I mean, you've said more than enough. You
several mouthfuls, right?
Not in regards to that you talk too much, but I'm talking about you were very powerful in what you displayed. The things that you said were very, very key. And so I appreciate that. So if you had one more thing to say, what would it be?
Love one another, and most of all, love yourself.
Enough said, sis. I thank you so much for being with us today. Hold on one second. Do not hang up. WNT9 Talk Radio.
Here we go, y'all.
WNT9 Talk Radio.
Here we go, y'all.